Hello there, welcome to AWS Tech Guide session. Today I'll be talking about auto scaling in AWS, and we'll create a auto scaling group as well as we'll create the launch template too. So let's proceed. In auto scaling there are two things: EC2 auto scaling and AWS auto scaling. You may be thinking, what is the difference between these two, EC2 auto scaling and AWS auto scaling? I will tell you in a minute. So first, let's see what is EC2 auto scaling. EC2 auto scaling maintains application availability and allows you to automatically add or remove EC2 instances according to conditions you define. It means that EC2 auto scaling, it just adds and remove particularly EC2 instance. In AWS resources, EC2 instance, it adds or removes. The benefits are it is fault tolerant and creates high availability. Now the next one is AWS auto scaling. AWS auto scaling monitors your applications and automatically adjusts capacity to maintain steady, predictable performance at the lowest possible cost. You will get this definition in AWS documentation, of course, but the difference between AWS auto scaling and EC2 auto scaling is that EC2 auto scaling talks about only EC2 instance, but AWS auto scaling talks about, as you see, Amazon EC2 instances, Spot fleets, Amazon ECS task, Amazon DynamoDB tables and indexes, and Amazon Aurora replicas as well. So it is the big difference. But again, EC2 auto scaling is to scale EC2, as I said, and AWS auto scaling is used for EC2, Spot fleets, Amazon ECS, DynamoDB, Aurora replicas. Next thing is AWS auto scaling lets you define dynamic scaling policies for multiple EC2 auto scaling groups. Emphasize on that, for multiple EC2 auto scaling groups or other resources using predefined scaling strategies. Now you should use EC2 scaling if you only need to scale EC2 instances only, nothing else. Again, EC2 auto scaling group must be created and configured outside AWS auto scaling. I will show you in a minute that how to create and where to create EC2 auto scaling and where to create AWS auto scaling. So when we are creating EC2 auto scaling, that is outside of AWS auto scaling. Now there are two more things to know before I jump into actually the practical session: launch configuration and launch template. A launch configuration is nothing but a template only that an EC2 auto scaling group uses to launch the EC2 instance. It defines what is the Amazon machine image, which instance type you want to use, and the key pair, security groups, block device mappings, and this basic configurations for EC2 instance. Now then, what is launch template? Launch template is similar to a launch configuration. Let me tell you, launch configuration is backdated now. So it is recommended that whenever you are using EC2 auto scaling group and you need to create the launch template, you should go for the launch template, not the launch configuration. There are a few more things which supports launch template as well. It says that not all auto scaling group features are available in launch configuration, but launch template. Since it is the updated one and launch configuration is the backdated one, that's why not all auto scaling group features are available. Now, what are those auto scaling group features? To give you an example, that it has many additional features, like you can divide the percentage of instances between on-demand and Spot instances. So you can do that in launch template, but not in launch configuration. It is one of the many additional features. The big advantage of using launch template is that you can create multiple versions of the template. Remember that once you create launch configuration, you cannot edit or modify that launch configuration. If you need to change that launch configuration, you have to delete the launch configuration and create new. But in case of launch template, you can create multiple versions of that launch template. Now let's jump to the practical session, and in this tutorial I will be showing you how to create EC2 Auto Scaling group. As you see, I am already logged into my AWS Management Console. So let me show you first where is EC2 Auto Scaling and where to find AWS Auto Scaling. So in service, just go inside EC2, and on the left side panel you will find Auto Scaling. It is under EC2. So all this launch configuration, auto scaling groups are under EC2. And you have the launch templates as well. So I will come in a minute. I will talk about launch template, how to create it in a minute. Now on the search bar, search for AWS Auto Scaling. So you will get this AWS Auto Scaling, and it is a complete different screen, you can say. So if you click on get started, you will find create scaling plan, and from here you can start. There are three methods to create: by cloud formation stack, search by tag, or choose the EC2 auto scaling groups. Means if you have existing EC2 auto scaling group, then you can manage by your AWS auto scalings as well. But as I showed you, AWS auto scaling and EC2 auto scaling are completely at separate places. Since in this tutorial I'll be showing you how to create EC2 auto scaling group, that's why I'm moving to EC2 dashboard and first clicking on launch template on the left side panel. As I told you that launch configuration, which is here at the bottom of the page, it is backdated one. So if it is always recommended that if you are creating the new EC2 auto scaling group, then it is always recommended, so you go for launch template. So I'm clicking on launch templates, create launch template, now giving a name, template version. As I told you that launch template has versioning, so I'm just adding it as dev. Now I am not making any other changes, but this AMI I'm selecting, suppose this Amazon Linux 2, and based on that AMI your instance types will be auto populated over here. Now I'm searching for T2, suppose I'm looking for T2 Nano. Okay, now key pair, I have already created key pair, that's why I have just selected over here. Now in 99% of time you will be using this VPC selected, not the EC2 classic. Now security group, select one existing security group, anything you can select. So I'm just selecting the default one. Okay, now volume 1 has been already created, so you can add volume, new volume over here, or otherwise for now I am just keeping it as it is. Now on the details part, although it is an optional one, if you want to tune this launch template, then you can mention IAM, instance profile, shutdown behavior, stop behavior, termination protection, and all these things. And you know that when you create EC2, there is a user data field where you can run the script when the EC2 instance gets initialized. So if you want to add any bootstrapping script, you can add over here. So I am not adding anything. So clicking on create launch template, it has created successfully. Now on the next step, I have these three options: launch an instance from this template. So it is just asking me to launch instance from this template, or create an auto scaling group from your template, the template I have already created, or create spot fleet. So from here, I'm just clicking on view launch templates only. So this launch template has been created. You can see the details, the versions. Again, I'm telling you, in launch template, you can create versioning, but not in launch configuration. So our launch template has been created. Now let's go and create the auto scaling group, because our auto scaling group will be using this launch template. So on the left hand side bottom under auto scaling, we have auto scaling group, and again I'm saying it is under EC2 portal. So clicking on auto scaling group, click create an auto scaling group, just give a name launch template. Now it is asking to select the launch template if you have. So we have this launch template we already created, otherwise you can create from this launch template link. The version it is asking, the default is 1, we have the 1, just I'm selecting 1, and it has taken all these details from the launch template we have just created. I'm just simply clicking on next. Now purchase option and instance type, it is adhere to launch template, means whatever I have defined in launch template, adhere to that. Otherwise, if you want to modify this by combine purchase options and instance type. So if I select this combine purchase options and instance type, you see I have two separate parts where I can define that how many on-demand instances I want and on which percentage. Suppose I need 70% of on-demand instance and 30% of spot instance. So in auto scaling group, I can define the purchase option and combine purchase option basically. But in this tutorial, I am just sticking to the first option, which is adhere to the launch template, whatever I have defined in the launch template. The VPC is selected because I selected this VPC in my launch template. Subnets. Now it will list up all the subnets from the VPC I have selected. Now I should select all the subnets here. The reason I am selecting all the subnets, when this auto scaling group will be creating the instances, it will distribute the instances in various subnets. Various subnets means, as you see that this first subnet is in US East 1A, next one is in 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F. So in various availability zones, these subnets are distributed. So I want my EC2 instances should be distributed in various availability zones. So clicking on next. Now this load balancing is optional as well as health check. But if you want to do this load balance, enable the load balancer, you just enable it. You click on enable it and select your application load balancer. Health check is also optional. Again, through by the application load balancer, if you want to do this health check, you can go by that. Additional settings is optional for monitoring. Enable group matrices collection within CloudWatch. We are not integrating with CloudWatch in this tutorial, so simply I am clicking on next. Now this is very important part. Group size, desired capacity, minimum capacity and maximum capacity. Desired capacity says that at any point of time that how many instances you desire. So suppose I'm adding it as 2. Minimum capacity I'm keeping it as 1, and maximum capacity suppose I'm keeping it as a 4. Now in scaling policy, I am not selecting any scaling policy. In case of launch template, you get this scaling policy, which is target tracking scaling policy, but not in case of AWS auto scaling. Okay, so I am not selecting it. The next option is also optional. I am not doing anything. It is instance scaling protection. Enable instance scaling protection. I am not enabling it. So just simply clicking on next. I am not adding any notification, but if you want any, if you have that SNS topic already created and if you want to configure the notification when it scales up, scales down, then you can add the notification over here. Clicking on next. I'm not adding any tag. Now it is the review page. Just review and create auto scaling group. And it says that it has successfully created this auto scaling group. Now let's open our EC2 dashboard. And as you see that it has started initializing these 2 instances. The reason these 2 instances, because the desired capacity I have given 2. So let's terminate one of these. I'm terminating this. It is now below the desired capacity. So the auto scaling group, which I have already created, it should create one instance to make that desired capacity as 2. It will take a minute to spin the new one. Meanwhile, let me take you to the auto scaling group. Select the auto scaling group, and in activity tab, you will find the history that launching a new EC2 instance, because it launched 2 EC2 instances and it was successful. Now, as you see that we have got one more record, successful terminating EC2 instances, because I have manually terminated that. That's why it is showing that terminated successfully. Now it will create one more instances because our desired capacity is 2. As you see that it has started initializing the new EC2 instance to make the desired capacity 2. So this is the purpose for EC2 auto scaling. As you saw that I terminated one instance, so the number of instance dropped, but the EC2 auto scaling group had desired capacity as 2. So that's why automatically it initialized one more EC2 instance. And this is the way it helps your system to be fault tolerant and highly available. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any query, please write in the comment box below. I will be happy to help you. See you in our next session. But before that, don't forget to check the links in the description box to know our upcoming training session on AWS technologies. Thank you.